To discuss now, we want to bring in Gadi Adelman, counterterrorism expert and advisor. We thank you so much for your time right now. There have been travel warnings for Americans traveling abroad for years now. The question is there anything that has been making this worse, exacerbating the situation for Americans depending on the country now? Does it have anything to do with foreign policy put in place by the administration?
No, I wouldn't go so far as to blame our foreign policy. You're going to have terrorism regardless of who's in office in the United States, or for that matter, anywhere in the world. The total number of terrorist attacks, and of course, statistics vary depending on who you listen to, but the total number of terrorism of the actual attacks decreased in 2017 by overall of 23%. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't terrorist attacks going on. The total number of terrorist attacks in 2017 was 8,584. So, people need to listen to the State Department. They need to check on places before they leave if going overseas. And really, you need to just maintain, self-awareness. You need to know where you're going and keep an eye out for yourself, because other people aren't going to do it for you.
Now, the U.S. has made its position clear for years on not paying ransoms for abducted Americans. Should the safari company have paid this ransom by doing so? Does it put a price on Americans' heads?
It does, unfortunately. I'm not going to sit here and reason why they shouldn't have made that payment. It's obvious. They're a corporation. They want Americans as well as people from around the world to come and tour that area and go to the park. And obviously, for those reasons, economically, they're going to pay the ransom. The problem is, as our State Department Secretary of State Pompeo has stated, if they pay a ransom, it really does put a price on anyone's head that's going over to these places. So you've got both ends of the spectrum. But if you're a family member and you lose someone over there, you're going to want that ransom paid. So this is a really tough argument. It's easy to sit on the sidelines and say don't do it, but it's understandable why it's done.
Gadi, there's another case in the news right now about a New York couple who went vacationing in the Dominican Republic, never came back. Now, when you hear a story like this, they've been missing for 2 weeks. When you hear something like this, is a kidnapping one of the first things that goes through your mind?
When it first takes place and a family member or a person that's involved with a corporation disappears like that, that would be the first thought process. However, like you said, in this particular case, in the Dominican Republic, it has been almost 2 weeks. And the fact that no ransom has been requested does make one wonder whether or not this was a kidnapping. Obviously, after that amount of time, if it were a kidnapping, they would have even used their own, the person they kidnapped, they would use their cell phone to contact a loved one and say, okay, we've got your family member, here's what we want. And the fact that we haven't heard anything like that, and it's been almost 2 weeks, tends to make me believe more that it was a crime rather than a kidnapping.
Between this instance in the Dominican Republic and this one out of Uganda where Kimberly Endicott was taken from a national park that's generally regarded as safe for tourists, what can tourists do to protect themselves when traveling abroad?
You need to listen when you go to these places, especially if they're on the State Department list of places to be cautioned, not to go at all or to be cautious while there. You need to listen to those that live, the locals that live there, and the people that run these, different parks and things of that sort. In this particular case with Endicott, if you read some of the reports, the owner of that park, of that tourist area, even said, that was pretty amazing that you went out there by yourself with a driver. So, you shouldn't be going off to these places by yourself. It's just common sense. You need to really be aware of your surroundings and listen to the locals.
All right, Gadi, thank you so much for joining us.